Continuing our discussion of encoding shellcode, we just looked at our improved script. So here's a new one. And this one is even simpler. It starts out with shebang bin bash, couple comments, and then I set a variable. I say, if you don't specify what you want, I'm going to use the Bloxer encoder. And if $pound is greater than 1, then I will use something else. $pound is a special shellcode variable that tells you how many things you passed in. So if I only passed in one thing, that would be the name of the file that I wanted to encode. It would encode that with Bloxer. However, if I passed in more than one thing, then the second parameter should be my encoding that I desire. Now I have an output file, and I say it's going to be my input file with .enc on the end. I will also output this to the screen so you can copy and paste it, but it seemed like a good idea to also put this to a file. By the way, nobody says you can't encode your file multiple times, and this is something that people do. And the hope is that by encoding and encoding and encoding again with some somewhat random encoding schemes, you might be able to thwart an IDS or antivirus system because the file will no longer be recognizable to any signatures stored in those systems. So here I just say, this is what I'm doing. I'm encoding using whatever. And here's what my output file is. I create the binary file. I call MSF encode, and I give it -b/x00 that says a null byte is a bad byte. Incidentally, if you have a situation where things such as a code 10 or A or D, carriage return, line feed, are problematic for you, you can also list those. By default, I'm just saying nulls are bad pretty much universally. By the way, the more bad characters you list, the longer it will take for the encoding to occur. So here I tell it, here's my input, $1, the first thing I passed in, and my output type is raw. That means just give me the bytes. I will encode it using $ENC. So it's either going to be Bloxer or what you passed in. And then once again, I'm going to output to my out file. Now here, I have not destroyed the file as I did previously. I probably should have added something like that. I guess my thought was I've added to the file name, so there shouldn't be a file like that out there. Something you might want to adjust. So this will take a little bit of time. And when it's done, I create a C file from the binary. You could actually create a C file by running this again and telling it the type of output is C. But that might take forever. And the other thing that you will find is that some of these algorithms are polymorphic. So if you run it again, you won't get the exact same result. You might have a different length shellcode and you might have different shellcode. So instead, I simply use XXD and it has a flag that says, give me something I could include in a C file. Now, this is slightly different from what we typically use with shellcoding, but it certainly is valid and it works. So let me go ahead and encrypt my file. So I'm going to run enc.sh. And as always, if you edited this file in your editor, don't forget to chmod it, say chmod plus x, and then the name of the file to make it executable. So I'm going to run it. My input is win32 shell.bin. And I'll just let it do a default. So it's going to use Bloxer. Once this is done, I can tell it I want to run it again. All right, so it's done. My shellcode has gotten a little bit bigger. You'll notice that it says the size is 121, and it started at about 48 or so. And here's my C code. Instead of using the \x syntax and putting things together in a string, instead, I've just used the fact that this is an array, and I've given it all of my hex values separated by commas. Also notice that it defined a variable for me for the length of my code and said, hey, the length is 121, which matches this. As I said, you might want to encode this again. So all I need to do is say my input file is my last encoded file. And this time I'm going to use x86/Shikata Ganai. It's another favorite. This will take a little bit of time, and we'll see that this code that was input at this stage as 121 bytes will come out even larger. So I've gone from 121 to 148 bytes. So everything matches. It says 148 here and 148 here. So if I wanted to stop at this stage, I could just copy this code and paste it into a C file. That would be it. So there are a couple of things that I could do with my code at any given stage.